I was pouring my morning coffee when my phone buzzed insistently on the marble counter. The screen lit up with a name I hadn't seen in months. Ryan Blake, my ex-husband. My stomach twisted as I read the message. I need access to Lily's trust fund. It's for your brother's wedding. $1,387,000. Let's talk. I felt my grip tighten around the mug, the warmth seeping into my palms. The sunlight streaming through the bay window caught the gold flecks in my silk blouse. It was almost cruelly beautiful outside, birds chirping as if nothing could be wrong in the world. I stared at the phone, hearing the silence of our empty house, remembering the day he didn't show at Lily's funeral. The audacity of him demanding her money now was almost laughable, if it weren't so infuriating. I pressed my lips together, tasting the faint bitterness of my coffee mingled with anger. I could feel my pulse in my temples. Pride, hurt, and exhaustion twisted together. I thought about how much I'd carried alone, grief, bills, nights of doubt, and the ache of raising Lily without him. And now he wanted to waltz back in, asking for the fortune that was hers. I took a deep breath, letting the steam curl around my fingers. I wasn't the woman who broke down when he walked away. I wasn't the woman who begged. I was Madison Blake. And if he thought he could intimidate me, he hadn't met the real me yet. It was raining the day I lost Lily. I remember standing in the cemetery, clutching her favorite blanket to my chest, the scent of lavender still clinging to it. I looked around for Ryan, expecting him to be there, his broad shoulders, the way he always held my hand when I couldn't breathe, but the space beside me remained empty. My brother, David, had his arms crossed, his jaw tight, muttering something about life going on. No one understood the suffocating weight of grief, the raw emptiness of a mother's heart ripped open. I felt the lump in my throat, so hard I thought I might choke. My hands shook as I placed Lily's tiny coffin into the ground, nails digging into my palms. I could still hear the whispers of people around me, words that felt both distant and cutting. She should be stronger. Why is she crying so much? I didn't have the energy to explain that losing Lily wasn't something you simply got over. My grandmother had given me a small locket that morning, a silver charm she said had been passed down from generations of women who survived tragedies. Wear it, Madison, she had said softly. It will remind you of your strength. You are the keeper of your own life now. I had clutched it to my chest, letting her words anchor me amidst the storm of disbelief and sorrow. I remember walking home afterward, drenched, feeling abandoned by the man I thought would always protect me. Ryan had left months earlier, claiming he needed space to grieve differently. Different. He called it different. I called it cowardice. I remember staring at the empty chair where he should have been and deciding something I never thought I could. I would not beg him. I would not beg anyone. I would stand on my own, for Lily, and for myself. That night, I sat on Lily's little bed, tracing the edges of her stuffed bunny, tears falling silently onto the worn fabric. I whispered promises I wasn't sure I could keep yet. I will make you proud, my love. I will survive. And no one will take what's yours away. It was the first time I truly understood what it meant to be a mother without a partner, a woman who could no longer depend on anyone else's protection. That locket against my chest wasn't just jewelry. It was a symbol of survival, the first spark of the fire I would use to rebuild my life. After Lily's passing, I felt like I was walking through fog. Every step forward was uncertain, every decision heavy with grief. But that silver locket my grandmother had given me felt like a pulse against my chest, reminding me that I still had a purpose. Slowly, I began to rebuild, not just for myself, but to honor the little life that had been taken from me. I moved to a small apartment in the city, far from the memories that haunted every corner of our old home. The walls were bare at first, just white and quiet. But I filled them with hope, with vision boards and sticky notes about what I wanted to achieve. I spent late nights online, researching, learning, taking courses in finance and business management. I was determined to control my own destiny, to secure Lily's future, even if no one else believed I could. Then I met Margaret Hale, a seasoned financial advisor who ran her own firm. She saw the determination in my eyes and gave me the first real opportunity one had since Lily passed. "I see you, Madison," she said one evening as we pored over spreadsheets. "You have the fire. Don't let anyone dim it." Those words became a lifeline. I threw myself into the work, long hours blending into nights illuminated by the glow of my laptop, caffeine-stained fingers tapping across the keyboard as I built clients, portfolios, and credibility from scratch. It wasn't easy. I battled self-doubt every day. I worried I wasn't good enough, smart enough, or strong enough. Clients questioned my youth, colleagues underestimated me, and some days, the weight of loneliness pressed against my chest so hard I thought I might collapse. But for every setback, there was a small victory. The first client who trusted me, the first profitable investment I guided, the first email from a grateful parent whose child's college fund I had helped grow. I learned to celebrate the quiet wins because I knew that someday these would be the stories I could tell, not just to the world, but to myself. Through it all, I kept my life secret from my family, posting only minimal updates on social media. Pictures of coffee cups, sunsets, and vague mentions of busy days at work. They had never supported me when I needed it most, and I wasn't about to give them a front-row seat to my triumphs. Madison Blake, the woman they thought had crumbled, was becoming someone they couldn't even imagine. A woman in control, respected, and quietly wealthy. By the time my brother mentioned his wedding, and Ryan dared to send that audacious message about Lily's trust fund, I had already built a life that was untouchable. I had grown into someone my younger, grieving self could have only dreamed of being. Someone who could face betrayal with calm strength. Someone who could finally protect what was hers by right. And for the first time in years, I felt the tiniest flicker of anticipation. It was time for them to see what they had missed. The knock at the door was deliberate, almost arrogant, like he expected weakness. I straightened my blazer, smoothed my skirt, and took a deep breath before opening it. Standing there were Ryan and David, both wearing expressions that assumed pity would greet them. I let them linger for a moment, letting the silence stretch like a spotlight across the room. "Madison," Ryan said, voice careful, rehearsed, trying to sound casual. "We need to talk about Lily's trust fund." I didn't move immediately. Instead, I gestured for them to enter. The apartment was no longer the modest space they remembered. Expensive art adorned the walls, a sleek mahogany desk sat in the corner, and shelves lined with books on finance, law, and women's leadership gave the room the weight of authority. My laptop sat open on the desk, spreadsheets and investment summaries reflecting the afternoon sun. They looked around, eyes widening, disbelief flickering over their faces. David muttered, This isn't what I expected." I smiled, not unkindly, but with the quiet satisfaction of someone who had survived and thrived. "You're right. This isn't what you expected," I said, my voice calm, measured, but carrying the weight of every sleepless night, every tear, every battle I had fought alone. Ryan's face tightened. "Madison, I thought maybe you thought you could come back, skip her funeral, ignore her life, and then ask for her trust fund like it was yours to claim." I interrupted, letting my words hang like a verdict. "You thought wrong." I motioned for them to sit. Ryan's hand twitched toward his suit pocket, as if he could grab the conversation and control it. He couldn't. Not anymore. I opened my laptop, letting them glimpse the numbers. $1,387,000, the trust fund they believed was an entitlement, not an inheritance. But I had done more than preserve it. I had invested it wisely, growing it, protecting it, making sure Lily's future was untouchable. And then I added the cherry on top, my own financial empire, built quietly, independently, without their help or approval. David's jaw dropped. "Madison, you did all this?" I nodded. I did. And not just for me, for Lily. For her dreams. For the legacy she deserves. And for the woman I had to become to protect it. Ryan's face went pale. I could see the guilt flash in his eyes, the shame of absence, the audacity of his current demand. He tried to speak, but I raised my hand. "Let me finish," I said. You missed every moment you were supposed to protect, nurture, and guide. But now you're here. And now you will listen. I am not the woman you left behind. I am not helpless. I am not asking. And I am not giving in. I closed the laptop slowly, letting the screen go dark. Silence filled the room again, heavier this time, as they absorbed the reality. The woman they had underestimated was untouchable, powerful, and in complete control. For the first time, I saw the truth in their eyes: disbelief, shame, and a reluctant admiration. I had waited years for this moment, and it was finally here. They had expected vulnerability. They had expected grief. But what they found was Madison Blake, the woman who had turned grief into power, loss into strategy, and betrayal into her own triumph. I leaned back in my chair, letting my gaze sweep across the room as Ryan and David fumbled for words. This was my domain now. Not the cemetery where Lily rested, not the empty house of old memories. This was my life, built brick by brick, and they were stepping into it on my terms. Here's the situation. I began, calm but commanding. You want access to Lily's trust fund. You want it for David's wedding. That's not happening, at least not without conditions. I let my words hang, the weight of authority settling like a quiet storm. Ryan's face paled further. Conditions? He asked, almost whispering, as if the word itself shocked him. Yes. Conditions, I repeated, because this is about more than money. It's about respect, accountability, and growth. Ryan, you will take parenting seriously, past, present, and future. You will attend therapy, individually and with me, to confront what you avoided for years. You will respect boundaries and never attempt to control Lily's legacy again. He swallowed, nodding, but the hesitation was there. I didn't flinch. David, I continued, turning to him, you will stop undermining women, including me. You will use your wedding as a starting point to build empathy and fairness in your relationships. And yes, you will help maintain Lily's memory, her legacy, and the opportunities I've fought to preserve for her. I paused, letting each condition sink in. These rules are not punishments, I said softly. They're about growth, emotional, ethical, and financial. I want you both to have a chance to be better versions of yourselves. But make no mistake, if you can't meet these standards, you'll have nothing. Absolutely nothing. I watched Ryan run, a hand down his face. I could see the recognition in his eyes. This wasn't the Madison he thought he left behind. This was someone who had endured grief, mastered independence, and was now standing tall with every right to set terms. David's mouth opened, then closed. He looked around the apartment, absorbing the evidence, the art, the books, the spreadsheets, the quiet power that I exuded. He realized, finally, that this wasn't a plea or a negotiation. This was authority. This was survival forged into elegance. I reached for the silver locket I still wore around my neck, letting it catch the light. This, I said, touching it gently, reminds me of what I can endure and achieve. It reminds me that Lily's life and her legacy are sacred. And it reminds you both that respect and growth are not optional. The room was silent, thick with tension and newfound awareness. I could see them processing it, understanding for the first time that the woman they once underestimated had become untouchable, unyielding, and undeniably wise. Finally, I leaned forward, letting a small, controlled smile soften my voice. You have a choice. Rise to meet these conditions or walk away empty-handed. The decision is yours. But know this trust fund, this life, Lily's legacy, none of it is up for negotiation. And with that, I realized that the balance of power had shifted completely. They had come expecting weakness, and instead, they faced someone who had transformed grief into strength, absence into achievement, and betrayal into wisdom. Weeks passed after I laid down the conditions. At first, there was resistance, eye rolls, awkward silences, clumsy attempts at change. But slowly, I began to see it. Small gestures, sincere apologies, real effort. Ryan started attending therapy, showing up not just physically, but emotionally. David took on responsibilities he had long avoided, volunteering his time, and learning to listen without judgment. It wasn't perfection, and I didn't expect it to be. Change takes time, especially when the foundation has been fractured for years. But even small shifts felt monumental. And through it all, I watched myself evolve further. Not only as a mother keeping Lily's legacy alive, but as a woman claiming the life she had fought so hard to protect. One evening, I sat in the living room, the locket resting against my chest, warm and reassuring. I traced its surface and remembered my grandmother's words. It will remind you of your strength. You are the keeper of your own life now. Every decision, every sleepless night, every triumph had led to this moment. I had honored Lily. I had honored myself. I thought about the pain of loss, the betrayal I had endured, the sleepless nights alone with grief pressing down. And yet, I realized those moments had forged something extraordinary in me: resilience, courage, and the ability to face the world with quiet authority. I looked out the window at the city lights flickering in the distance, a million lives moving forward, unaware of the battles some of us fight in silence. And I felt a profound sense of peace. I had survived, I had thrived, and I had rewritten the story they thought they controlled. For the first time in years, I smiled without apology. The grief would always be there, an echo of Lily's brief, beautiful life, but it no longer defined me. The legacy of my daughter, the woman I had become, and the relationships now shifting toward honesty and growth had created a life richer than I could have imagined. I whispered softly to myself, a voiceover for my own story. I am the keeper of my life, the guardian of my daughter's dreams, and the author of my own strength. And nothing, not even betrayal, can take that away. I stood, letting the night air drift through the open window, the locket warm against my chest, and felt an unshakable truth. I was Madison Blake. I was whole. I was unstoppable.